think this trip emerged from his visit to New York because he's going to Lesotho and involved with his charity Sentembali, which is a very good charity. So I rather commend what he's doing with this because this is more outgoing. It's like when he does things with the Invictus Games and things like that. Um, but it does indeed, I mean, there seems to be sort of pattern forming even in these last few days that he is going out on his own and doing things. Now, there could be two reasons for that. One could be that, he does indeed wish to establish himself more as the old Harry. These are charitable, the sort of charitable endeavors that members of the royal family undertake rather than overtly commercial ones. So that's in a way rather a commendable sign. It could be quite simply that Meghan Markle has responsibilities with her young children and therefore feels she has to stay at home with them. I mean, they are very committed parents, we know that. Or, of course, it could indicate, that there's that there is a separation of, of their different engagements and that he's going to be going more solo, in which case, watch this space, I suppose. It always seems to me that when she's around, she's dictating the narrative and that he kind of is very compliant and just goes along. And a lot of the things that he says publicly, I have always suspected are dictated by her. So I do wonder a little bit whether he isn't trying to establish himself more in his own right. But of course, this could be a joint endeavor, of course. I mean, it could be that she commends this idea because it gives him more of a profile and sort of ups his game. And therefore, when they go out together in public, they're more valuable. So, I mean, one must consider that as a possibility as well, I think. Well, I didn't think that his visit to the haunted house did him any credit at all because he didn't seem to add anything to that except to give Jimmy Fallon a lot of publicity. And I think he's also succeeded in giving the man with a tattoo parlour a lot of publicity because this man has had great fun coming out in front of the cameras in order to tell them that he can't tell them anything and he would never disclose anything about any of his clients, even though some of them are rather famous. So I suppose would-be tattooed people will be beating a path to his door now. So he's done a lot of good favors to them, but very little to himself, in my view. Well, we must remember that he recently turned 40. And although in his case, he's got his children, he's married, etc. So he's well on the path of life. But I suppose that at the age of 40, you do realize that you think a little bit about which way you're going to go in the future. I don't think that there's any wish on his part to come back as a working member of the royal family, because that, of course, implies that you're working for the United Kingdom, the Commonwealth, and within the system, whereas he is very much working for himself and Meghan. They are, an independent entity now. And also, I don't think it would be very helpful for the royal family because there's always a lot of publicity. Here we are talking about him. Anything that he does independently attracts a lot of attention, and that obviously would be drawing away from the more important role of the King and the Prince of Wales and the other members of the royal family, who are all doing things on our behalf. So I don't think there's any particular wish on either side for that. But I mean, I can understand it, that he must miss his friends and he must miss the system to some extent. I mean, he was appointed Captain General of the Royal Marines. That's a very important position. He could have done a lot of things. The late Queen, gave the two of them the whole of the Commonwealth to explore and work on, which is a massive and terribly important organization. Evidently, that wasn't enough for her. So it's a pity, but I don't think he'll want to come back as a working member of the royal family, but he may wish to build some bridges, and that is a good sign. It's always possible to reconcile if both parties are prepared to compromise. And in the past, we've seen Prince Harry rather stating that he thinks that the royal family owe him an apology. Well, I think we all agree that it's the other way around. He owes them an apology. So there's a bit of ground to cover, but let's see what happens. Well, I think that, I've said this before, and I'm happy to say it again, that they've left the royal family, but they are still using the titles. And that is why we are interested in what Meghan Markle does, because she's married to Prince Harry. There are a lot of people like her in the world doing a lot of good things, and no doubt they get a certain amount of publicity. They get nothing like the publicity that she gets, entirely because she's Prince Harry's wife. And they're involved, obviously, in this celebrity culture, and therefore they have to keep reinventing themselves and have to keep coming up with new ideas to make themselves relevant and to attract the attention of people like you and me to talk about them, I guess. So that is always their problem. But that's the road they've taken, and it's not an easy one. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I personally think it's quite likely to end not too well for him, but let's see what happens. I wish him well.